All right. Hello, everyone. Today I am joined once again by one of my favorite writers. He's new to me, but well, over the last couple years, but he's a fantastic writer. Chad, welcome back.
Dude, thanks for having me on here. You were talking about your mic like backstage or whatever, and I think the last time you must have been using your older mic because last time I was so nervous because I couldn't hear like 25% of what you were saying.
That yeah, that was my blue microphone. Absolutely loved the sound of that microphone,
Mhm.
but it started to die on me seriously throughout interviews. There was a couple of interviews like I was the most notably, I didn't notice when it was cutting out on you, but you could hear it. It was cutting out on me as well when I was talking to Daniel Brom
Mhm.
and Mike Thorne. Uh, Mike Thorne was right in the middle of the interview, and I had to I thought it was just the headphones at the time, so I went scrounging around looking for headphones, and
Oh
I had
man.
to leave him alone. That wasn't cool. And he was a trooper though. He just like started talking to the audience and like answering questions and stuff. It was pretty awesome for that alone.
That's cool.
So um I do have like a plan. I've brought this up before and I'm bringing it up again, but for a reason. I'm not just fanboying.
Okay.
But you and I, we were in an anthology together around
Mhm.
2016, and
Yeah.
I have it right here. It's Chud
Chad
Lives.
lives.
And at the time, I had no idea who Chad Lutzke was. And you contacted me seeing if you could do like a blog thing or something on it, or I contacted you. I think actually it was Crystal Lake Publishing wanted me to contact you to do a blog thing, and so I was like, "Yeah, do you want to?" And you sent something in that was cool. But I want to know more about the movie itself. Like, are you a big fan of Chud?
I remember when it came out, what was it, 84 or something? And it was kind of a big deal. And the acronym was really smart,
Yeah,
and it was just it caught a lot of attention. And I don't know, man. I when I saw the call for that, I don't think I was invited to that anthology. I think I submitted to it. When I saw the call, I was like, I gotta get in here,
yeah.
just because it's like it doesn't matter that it's Chud. It's just an '80s movie. It's Crystal Lake. And so I bought the DVD and I watched it. Hadn't seen it, since I was like 14, and it wasn't great. It wasn't great. I mean, there's some cool, memorable, scenes in it, but it's not. I mean, I don't hate it. It wasn't horrible, but when I was watching, I remember thinking, "Oh crap, man! You
My
know what?"
biggest complaint of the movie is that it has a really slow middle part. Like
Yeah.
it starts off kind of exciting and interesting, and it
Hmm.
ends with a literal bang. But there's a strong, or I guess I could say weak middle part where just nothing is really happening
Yeah.
except for the guy running a soup kitchen and these, it's boring. But
Yeah.
I love the movie myself. Like I can get past that. So when I saw that, because I wasn't invited either, obviously, I'm nobody, but that's fine. But I saw that and I was like, you know what, I got to write a story for this because I love '80s horror films.
Uh huh.
I've been a fan of '80s. Well, that's where I started watching them in the '80s when I was a kid. And are you a fan of '80s horror films as
Oh.
well?
Oh yeah. I that and the '70s are just like it. Pretty much doesn't matter how bad it sucks. That nostalgia is there to save the movie. You
Yeah,
know.
for sure. I mean, that is a big thing that you just said right there, the nostalgia, because there's like plenty of movies. Your
You know
lizard
it
brain,
sucks.
yeah,
You
your
know it
lizard
sucks,
brain is
but
like,
you're
this is
having
awful. Yeah,
yeah, but you're having a great time because it's taking you back to
yeah.
carefree days and the aesthetic and the music and
It's just
yeah,
fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
it really is.
What are some of your favorite '80s horror films?
Um, I love particularly the first five Friday the 13th movies. Well, particularly 2 through 5. I really like. Um, I like Sleepaway Camp and all them slasher movies. I like the stuff that Cronenberg did in there. I can't remember if The Brood was early '80s or late '70s. It's probably '70s.
I think that was late '70s, but
Yeah,
that sort of fits because that's the same era, right?
yeah. But
Sort of late
I mean,
'70s.
Basket Case and
Basket case is literally that.
Yeah. There's just so many, a bunch of Italian stuff that came out in the 80s that I love. And uh, that's why I don't know if you get Tubi TV, but Tubi TV is just like,
It's filled
it's
with it.
made for people like you and I who just, they have all those movies that you saw on the shelf when you were young, but you never end up grabbing, like Microwave Massacre or something.
Yeah.
And then they have stuff that you never saw on the shelf that's like, wow, what is this? That's from the 70s or 80s. They have all that stuff. It's
Yeah.
great. They put Shudder to shame. I love Shudder, but they've got way more movies than Shudder does.
That's for sure. I have Tubi just with my cable service provider. It just comes automatically with it. You don't even have to sign up for it. It's just part of the whole program. It's free
Yeah.
basically, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I every once in a while I just have to scour through that menu and just pick something. It's funny, like the Italian horror films. I never really knew them growing up. I didn't get into them until I was like in my 20s or 30s. Um, but you know what? I've watched them, and again, the uh, the lizard brain is like, this is just awful.
Yeah.
But there's a similarity because like often the lighting is just insane. Um, and they're just fun to watch, but they're very much a different approach to telling stories.
Yeah, they're more. I was reading something a while ago, and they're more uh, style rather than plot and story.
Yeah, very much so.
And that makes sense. I mean, when you look at movies like Suspiria and, like you said, the lighting, a lot of the colors in there,
And the
and
crazy
just
music.
the music, which the music is so. Some of these movies, the music doesn't fit at all, but it kind of makes the genre.
Yeah.
Like they've got some weird. It's like, wow, whose idea was it to put this song in this scene right here? Because this is like this does not really set the mood. It's like an upbeat kind of thing, and this is a spooky moment.
Yeah.
And you've got this, like Goblin did a lot of those soundtracks and
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, they're a whole thing unto themselves.
Yeah,
Italian movies.
it's pretty interesting. In your introduction to Cannibal Creator, you talk about guilty pleasures and that you don't really believe in having guilty pressures or pleasures. I completely agree with you on that. I appreciate you saying that because like who cares if you like, like Tiffany from the 80s, but you're
Yeah,
also into like death metal. It
yeah,
really doesn't matter. But you did say that you do have one guilty little pleasure, and
yeah,
that's the Cannibal Holocaust movie.
yeah.
And you know what? That's a movie I want to watch, but I know what happens in it, and so it's really I still haven't seen it.
Yeah, it doesn't just happen. It happens for a long time and a lot and up close. So it feels very excessive.
Yeah.
It's not really necessary. Um, I've seen that one in particular a couple times, but it's weird. I saw it first when I was a kid, like I think I was 16, and I was like, whatever. By that time, I was so desensitized, and then I saw it about 3 years ago, and I was like, man, this is way better than I remember it being. Outside of the animal stuff, it's a great movie.
Yeah, I've heard that it's a good movie.
Hmm.
There's some interesting stories about that movie too, like especially afterwards. Like the FBI was
Yeah,
hunting the filmmakers for a while because they thought that not just the animal killings, but the human slaughter. They thought
yeah,
that was all real.
yeah, yeah. I was just talking about that on another podcast and how the the filmmaker actually found himself imprisoned for a
Hmm.
short time, and then had to, because I guess the actors had signed some kind of agreement, just like I think the Blair Witch Kids did, when they, no promo, can't be out in public, talking about this or anything. And these actors did the same thing because essentially it was supposed to be kind of like a found footage thing.
Yeah,
And so when he's in there, I think he had his lawyer or whatever contact these actors, like, you guys got to come out of hiding and you got to help me out here. And they demonstrated like how they did the effects and stuff within the courtroom there, and proved that they were all still alive and stuff, so he could get out of jail.
that's funny because like that's a credit to the filmmakers because they did
Yeah.
something. Actually, I think Nine Inch Nails, Trent Reznor went through something similar for one of his videos.
Oh,
They
really?
thought he was actually killing people in in his videos. I forget which video it was, but it has like a human meat grinder in it. It's pretty brutal.
Hmm.
It was a banned video, of course, because it's like I said, it's pretty nasty. Like has like
Yeah.
these mechanical arms that dig into people's stomachs and like tear out the intestines and stuff. It's you could tell that they were really fucked up on some good cocaine while coming up with the creation
Yeah.
of the video and then doing it.
Mm.
But yeah, so Cannibal Holocaust, was that like a big reason as to why you went into and to write Cannibal Creator?
I mean, sort of. I was going to almost every day after lunch. I usually go down and lay down for a little bit, and I'll throw a movie on, usually from Shudder or Tubi, and it's usually something that's not going to hold my attention that much. So if I doze off, it's so otherwise I'll usually put on some 70s or 80s movie, and I put on Lucio Fulci's Zombie that I'd already seen 2 or 3 times, and I was watching it and I hadn't seen it for a while, and I was like, man, I love this island setting, the water and the island, and I was like, I'd love to write a book like that, but not about zombies. And then that same week, I'd watched a movie called "I Eat Your Skin" that takes place on an island with like voodoo zombies. And again, I was like, I don't want to do zombies, and I was like, what if I did like a cannibal thing? It's it's been done. I knew that it had been done before by Adam Caesar with The Tribesmen, which a book that I hadn't read, but not many people were really doing when they were doing cannibals, it was usually like a family, like a Texas Chainsaw type family or rednecks or something like that, but not too much on an island. Of course, Jack Ketchum did it with Offspring. So I came up with an idea that I thought hadn't been done before, and I the next day or two I made a cover for it, and then I started writing it.
Cover is fantastic, by the way.
Thank you.
I absolutely like it. Looks, you put a Chad Lutzke film on the bottom
Yeah.
there, and I heard you talking about the worry that might confuse people, and I think you posted on Twitter or something saying, I know it says a Chad Lutzke film, but it's not a movie, it's a book.
Yeah, because someone had contacted me and they're like, "Where can I watch this movie?" And I'm like, "It's not a movie."
Yeah.
So haven't gotten that too much, and I figured I might, but I also thought that more people would appreciate a different kind of setup, than they would be confused about it.
Yeah. So I wanted to actually ask you about the cover, because like I said, it's really good.
Thank you.
I mean, I mean, I'm not saying you're amateur cover maker or anything like that, but you have hired cover artists before.
Yeah.
And actually I think for the most part, you hired.
Yeah, I did.
People.
I did a Falls, and Flies, the original cover with the fly and the chalkboard. And then I did Wallflower, and I did Skullface Boy, and Slow Burn on Riverside, and Spicy Constellation.
Okay,
The rest of them were either existing. Stirring the Sheets was an existing painting. Night as a Catalyst was an existing painting, and then I hired Zach McCain for the Pale. Oh, I also did the Neon Owl.
Okay.
I hired Zach McCain for the Pale White, the Thunderstorm edition of Wormwood, Hamato Pages, Out Behind the Barn, and The Same Deep Water as You, and Halo of Flies, which is a limited. So I've done about half of my own covers, I guess.
Yeah, they're all really great. Like one thing I notice about your covers is they're always like up at a very high level.
Thanks.
Of like it. I knew that you've done some of your covers, but I didn't realize it was that extensive, or I forgot. But yeah, that's like fantastic. You use Photoshop?
Yeah. Yep.
Is that something that you just tinker with for hours?
Yeah, I just kind of like have an idea, and I screw around with stuff. I mean, I usually make a couple different covers. Some of it's through trial and error. The Cannibal Creator cover came together though pretty fast. I kind of knew what I wanted. Actually, I wanted a painting Um, and I wasn't about to paint it. And when I reached out to the artist that had in mind to do it, they wanted $800, and I was not going to pay that. Not to say they're not worth it. It's just that I wasn't going to pay that for just a rinky-dink thing that might not even sell that well. I don't know. You
Yeah,
know?
because you want to make your money back, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Now, I was wondering, what advice would you give to writers who want to design their own covers? And the reason why I ask this is because you can usually tell, like I said, I didn't know that you've done your own covers so extensively.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's surprising because they're all they're not just professional, they're like very, very good.
Thank you.
So what kind of what kind of advice would you give somebody to get good at doing that?
Um, well, I know the first cover I did was for a short story, and I remember it. I remember thinking it was good, and it was really bad. And I think the only person to tell me that was, I don't know if anybody did, but make sure that you get people who are honest with you, not like friends and family members, but people, excuse me, that you can trust to be like, hey man, this thing is not good. This thing sucks. Because I do see a lot of people doing their own covers that are like almost cool, and but they're missing out a lot. They're missing like maybe they're way too busy, or and they're trying to mash too much in there, or the font is off, or the font placement is off, or um because you could have a really good image, you know, if you get the rights to use something or permission to use something, and then slap some font, and the placement might be bad, ruin on the whole thing. Or some of the covers I've seen, it takes a second to even be able to read. Um, you know, like maybe it's got white over light background, or black over a dark background, or something. So you want to be able to see it. And if you can have something that someone can tell in a thumbnail exactly what it is and catches their eye, that's even better, because you know the thumbnails on, like when people are scrolling through Amazon looking for books or whatever, you're not going to have this big beautiful image of your cover. I would also suggest that if you are self-publishing and you're going to go through Amazon, Amazon tends to make their covers. If you've got a dark cover, your cover is going to be printed even darker. So I know I've seen some copies of the pale white uh, that I was not happy with at all, because it's a dark cover, and I've had another book like that too, and I had to really lighten things up. Um, so I would look for those things. I kind of discourage, unless you've got like some bright contrasting colors. I would not go real dark with the covers. I've seen a lot of those lately. Lots of
Yeah.
like red and black covers that kind of look like a, you can tell there's some great artwork in there, but you can't really see it that well.
Yeah, I've heard the advice that if you're gonna make your own covers, one thing to do is to add a lot of color, but of course they all have to blend and work together.
Yeah, they
Would
got to
you
complement
agree?
each
Like
other.
even with horror, I think the reason why people will do their own covers and they will make it all dark and hard to see, is because it's horror, right?
Yeah,
But this person argued that just make it colorful anyway because it's got to grab the eye.
yeah. I would also suggest, and I haven't always taken this advice myself, but to have a cover that absolutely right off the bat conveys what kind of book it is. Like
Hmm.
you know what you're getting. I mean, Cannibal Creator is an easy one. It's in the title and the font and everything. But I've had some other stuff like Slow Burn on Riverside and the Same Deep Water as You, where you're like, you don't really know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
But that's because I guess I don't know what to. I don't even know really how to kind of classify those anyway. You know, like tragic romance, coming of age, dark drama. I really don't. Literary, dark
Yeah.
fiction. I don't know.
I imagine though that you might have some issues trying to classify some of your work anyway, like
Yeah,
because like some of it's like, yeah, this could read as horror, but it could also be literary,
yeah,
um, without the horror, because a lot of literary has horror elements, but it's never ever discussed that they're horror.
yeah,
Yeah. All
for
right,
sure.
from the audience here, we have a question from Jonathan who asks, "Is Chad into Dario Argento's work?"
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't like Italian cinema and not like Dario.
Yeah, for sure. And typical books, Lydia. Hi, Lydia. She
Hey, Lydia.
has a comment. Cannibal Creator struck me as a fab metal band name when I first saw the cover, which, yeah, I could see it.
For
And we
sure.
were talking about heavy metal just before coming on here,
Hmm.
so that's kind of funny. She loves the look, and she's looking forward to reading it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
And L.J. Dougherty says, yes, the cover is so important, which is very true. I think a lot of people, the whole idea of don't judge a book by its cover is it's pretty much false, because if it's a bad cover,
Yeah.
you're just going to pass by it. I do it all the time. I see a
Yeah.
bad cover, and then I think maybe the writer didn't take the time to create a good, fiction as well,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
at
If you,
least write well.
yeah, that's how I look at it. I think most people do. It's like if you look at the cover and you see that they have poor taste, then my gosh, what's on the inside? You
Yeah.
know.
Steve
Thanks,
talks
Steve.
about books. He's here. You were on his show recently,
Thank you. Yeah. Hung out with
and he
Steve.
says the cover is awesome.
Thank you.
And Lydia says once a month or so, I see book covers with no author name on them, which is a weird trend for sure. She says that's a weird trend or rookie mistake. I vote rookie mistake. What do you think, Chad?
No author. Are you talking about maybe pre-mades that people are showing off? Are these legit? Like somebody published this and there's no
I
name on
think
the
I think
cover.
what she means is that they won't put their name on the cover title. It might be on the spine or the back, but the cover will just have like the title of the book. I've seen this too.
I mean, that sounds like a horrible trend, but it might be cool with some like if you've got some really artistic representation and the insides or something like House of Leaves or something. You've got something truly different, you know. Otherwise, that's probably a bad idea. The whole thing is trying to build a brand, and so you want your name to be seen as much as possible. And
Yeah.
if people are reviewing your books and posting them on Instagram, you don't want to have to search all over. Who is this? I don't even know how to find this. You want it to be able to find it easy.
I can't see that as being a trend that'll stick. I don't know. And Mike Dean. Hi, Mike. How you doing, buddy? He says, I loved the book and your take on the cannibal films of yore.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's a it's a fantastic book. I said in my Goodreads review that this isn't my typical type of horror, because
Yeah,
I do I know that you like the more realistic type stuff like this,
yeah,
because Cannibal Creator, it could happen or something like it,
sure.
and it kind of cannibalistic tribes throughout the world have, this has happened to one degree or another
Yeah,
in the past. So that's the type of horror that you gravitate towards too. But for me, honestly, I really enjoy monsters.
yeah.
but I love writing. Like, you're one of my favorite writers now, so like, I don't know, maybe I was biased going in, I don't know, but I want to know how, speaking of tribes and cannibalistic tribes, you really took an interesting angle, I found, in creating these cannibals. And you really sort of took away that whole insulting indigenous tribes. You made it into something completely different, and that I found pretty fascinating. Was this a conscious decision, or did you?
Not as far as like trying to. I think I saw somebody wrote a review. It may have been your review. I'm not sure, but I did see a recent review of someone. No, I don't think it was yours. It was somebody bringing that up and that I had taken the racism out of it or whatever. And I don't.
Yeah, I
I've
didn't say
never
that.
looked at it like that. I mean, to say that you know a cannibal is of course he's indigenous. Well, yes, of course he's indigenous because that's who lives on these remote islands
Yeah,
are natives. So yeah, that's that you're not gonna go there and it's gonna be a bunch of whiteys hanging around,
yeah.
you know. But
Well, like I said, like this type of thing has happened before, so it's not necessarily insulting any indigenous tribes.
mhm,
But there's people out there who would take it as an insult, because they're tribal, they're set back of quite a few hundred years from our technology. They must be
right.
crazy cannibals, like, you know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
I think the horror movies take it to kind of a different level. They see it as they have it presented as more of like this evil abomination thing where I think a lot of maybe these real life people, I mean, I know there's different types of cannibalism, like they'll eat their own if they die and stuff like that. And it's insulting if you don't partake. And
hmm
so it's not like, I don't like you. Whitey, I'm gonna kill you and eat you, because you're visiting here. I don't think that I'm not that I've studied all these, cannibalism tribes or anything, but I do know enough to know that the movies portray them as strictly just like these, dumb savage, like we must
Yeah.
just eat meat and this is what we live for.
Or
I just made them different colors just to show, different races, just to show that this is this social experiment or whatever is made up of. There's no real rhyme or reason to them choosing the people they do because they're creating this thing. So, but I don't know. I mean that part was on purpose, but not to try to sway. And of course, I didn't see the sense of, like, let's say I just took a bunch of black people and put them on the island. That doesn't make sense to me,
yeah.
that or a bunch of indigenous people and put them on the. What makes sense is you just grab people,
Hmm.
like Americans who would never be doing this in the first place,
Yeah.
and then dropping them in there at an
And then
early age,
feeding them
and then
an
giving them,
entirely made up belief system
yeah,
and
or letting
making,
them develop it themselves, and then
yeah.
just give them, this is what you live on, and well, okay, well, this is what we live on, okay, so it's I was talking earlier, and with the exception of the doctors, the scientists, there's no other antagonist really.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? That's true. Well, there is an antagonist, but I don't really want to spoil anything, so we're not really going to go into that. But one thing I do want to talk about is the drama within the protagonists, because that honestly, like, I wasn't surprised by it, but it did surprise me a little because I was just expecting to go to an island and have some cannibal chaos. But
Yeah.
while all this dark stuff is going on, some dark secrets kind of pop out between it was basically two couples and their kids.
Hmm.
Um, and some pretty fucked up, normal fucked up, but
Yeah.
still fucked up shit comes to the plate, and you have to deal with this stuff while
Yeah.
dealing with a tribe that's trying to hunt you down. The- you write by the seat of your pants, right? So is this was
I
this a
I
surprise for you?
This is the first time that I half outlined. I outlined half of it. I'm not sure why I did that. Um, I just decided to do it, and I did come up with all of that drama beforehand. I'm a big fan of. I just didn't want it to be like a like to see people get killed on film is fun because it's a visual thing.
Hmm.
But it never appealed to me to read like a slasher book where that's all there is. If I'm gonna see people get killed or in different ways creatively, I'd rather watch that. It's only a 90-minute um, investment, not a 4 to 8 hour investment where I'm just watching people I don't care about with nothing else going on other than just survival. So I wanted to give something else that was interesting outside of that, where it's like, okay, how are they going to survive? But I also want to get back to what Carmen just said before they crashed, because what the heck is going on there,
Yeah.
you know? So I like that, and I wanted to have give something to the reader, to an extra something where it's like, okay, if they're not being chased by cannibals, that's okay because I'm enjoying this other thing that's going on, and I would like to hear more about this, and so I tried
I,
that.
I found it like I was talking to you to set this interview up, and at the end of that, talking to you about it and scheduling, I was like, I'm reading the book now, and I said it's very brutal, and my God, it is because like you're just kind of focused on the drama, and then somebody gets a spike through the, they fall into a pit, and they're dead. It's just like holy jeez, like that. I think I don't know. It's a good diversion to suddenly surprise them with something that's just absolutely nasty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very well done.
Thanks.
um, the ending. I wanted to discuss the ending without actually getting into it because I don't want
Mm-hmm.
to spoil anything. But the ending, while not exactly ambiguous necessarily, it is left a little bit wide open. Did you worry at all that readers might get angry at you for that?
No. I I love ambiguity. I love it, and I know that there are people um, that hate it, and I know there are people who really appreciate it. One of my favorite movies in the last horror films in the last 20 years is It Follows, and
Mm,
that has, I can't remember if you don't like that one or not, but at the end, it's ambiguous, and you're not sure if what's going on in the background is just normal or should they be running. And so,
yeah,
like just in that last shot, some people want to know. I like that feeling of me like mentally like continuing that story on my own and
yeah,
coming up with my own conclusion, but given enough. Um, as a matter of fact, the writers have a conversation on the plane about that and about closure. And one guy says that we just need to give them just enough to not spoon feed them, but to make their own decision that is most likely correct,
yeah,
but not spell it out for them. I cannot stand it when a film or a book spells things out for me, treats me like I'm stupid, and then but a lot of people, it's either what they need or what they really want. They want things spelled out for them. They want closure. They want to know everything that happened, why it happened, and I'm not. That's just not how I write. And I not to say that all of my stuff is ambiguous, but I do like. I don't like it where it's too ambiguous, where you read it and you're like, that was seriously the last sentence. That didn't tell me anything. Um, I'm not such a fan of that, and I can understand people hating that. But I like the idea of giving them just enough to where they can probably make up their own mind if they think about it.
yeah. I totally agree. It seems like people who are in the audience here agree too. Typical Lydia says, same here. Ambiguous endings are my favorite. And Rock Lobster Streams says, I like open to interpretation endings as
Yeah.
well. And me too, honestly, I might even like it a little bit more than the average person because I really like weird fiction and cosmic horror. So
Mm-hmm.
that type of stuff, if it gets my imagination running,
Yeah.
then and Cannibal Creator did that. When it ended, I was like, okay, I've been left with this. Now what happens? And my imagination came up with its actually few variations of what
Mm-hmm.
could have happened next. And so I found it very much fun to just sit there and think about what could happen next. And
To me, I saw it as you know what happens next, but
yeah,
you'll just have to picture it, kind of
yeah,
thing.
exactly.
And
I
I did see one review that I think the guy didn't get it, and it was a pretty bad review. He thought part of his book was missing. Um,
that's sort of where I was going with this question. Is some people don't like that, but I like asking whenever I come across it, and I'm going to be talking to the author. I like bringing it up because there is such a divide on
yeah,
ambiguous endings. Some people, like you said, just really don't like it at all,
and
and
that's fine.
yeah, that's
It's
fine. That's
just,
fine.
I
But
mean, creators should create what they enjoy.
yes,
Music or painting or writing books or whatever, instead of just trying to please an audience.
do you write for yourself?
Yeah, but I'd be lying if I didn't say that. There are some things that I mean. I write for my. There are a couple books that are absolutely 100% for me only. That would be like Skullface Boy, Same Deep Waters You, and Slow Burn on Riverside, which happen to be my favorite books that I've written. But they're not the ones that I tell somebody. If you haven't read me, go read these. I usually don't do that. But I don't really yeah, I can't really think of, with the exception of maybe Bloodletter, that was more of a people pleaser kind of a book, but done my own way.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
that kind of actually leads perfectly into my next question because
Okay.
within the last year or two, you've been really stretching your writing muscles, as I word it here in my question, and you've been doing that by changing up some of the the things you've been writing about, where you kind of started off with quite a few books or
Mhm.
novellas that you could classify as melancholic horror,
Yeah.
but you've been stretching out. Uh, you did the oh, what's it called? The investigation.
Neon
Uh,
Owl.
yeah, Neon
Mhm.
Owl, and you just mentioned the Bloodletter series.
Mhm.
Um, I was wondering if you were beginning to feel boxed in at all by writing, and well, now there's Cannibal Creator too. Although
Yeah.
you could definitely write like the after effects if anyone were to
Yeah.
survive, like you
Yeah.
could definitely go there. But were you starting to feel boxed in by what you started off
Yeah,
typically
which
writing?
is funny because I started out writing different things, trying to pick the most unique scenarios I could think of, with the exception of Wallflower. I don't really picture that. I like the book, but I don't picture it as something truly unique.
Hmm.
It's just a downward spiral of heroin addiction. We've seen movies on it, read books about it. I might have a different take on it, but whereas something like A Fostrums and Flies or Stirring the Sheets, or maybe those two I think are more unique. So I was trying to find things that had that going on for it. It just so happens that they're all in some way like somber and like emotional somehow. And so I noticed that people started, yeah, calling me like all my stuff like heartfelt horror and emotional horror, and I was just like, oh man, I gotta write something funny. So I wrote the Neon Owl, and when I continue, that series, I like those characters, um, but wanted to be gritty too. I wanted something that like Joe Lansdale would write. You know, but because I started noticing a lot of similarities between not only the way that we write and the fact that we both pants and that we both edit as we go along, and some of our dialogue and stuff, and that we like that buddy camaraderie with the banter, and so I was like, I'll have my own kind of like amateur sleuth kind of thing going on, and then the Bloodletter series was well, I've only done one book in series, but it was kind of like my way of selling out a little bit, and I put it under a non-cryptic pseudonym, just C.E. Lutzke instead of Chad Lutzke, just to tell people this is a little bit different, and it is.
Hmm.
Um, it's more, it's for a different type of audience. I did push it really with promotion and stuff. I was initially just going to rely on like Amazon ads, um, and so I never sent it to reviewers. I sent it to some beta readers, but I don't remember sending it to reviewers. And so yeah, I haven't really pushed the book. I don't hate the book, but it was a different writing process because I wasn't enjoying it that much as I was doing it.
Did it
Because
sell anywhere close to what your other work?
no,
No.
no, I mean I could have, but like I said, I didn't try that hard, and maybe it's because I didn't believe in it. A lot of people love that stuff, and there's definitely an audience for that.
Hmm.
Um, a female Dexter type uh, female or a protagonist, um, vigilante vampire. There's definitely an audience for that. It's just not the readership that I have, and it's a different readership that I didn't really take the time to go and try to seek out. And that's what I was gonna do with the Amazon ads, but I think I put up a couple ads and I didn't really try that hard with it. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then I was like, well, I'll write a tragic romance kind of thing with the same deep water. Actually, it meant to just be like I'm gonna write this summer and winter of my life, and make it look like fiction. And so that's what I did with the same deep water as you, and then some of the deaths in there. Um, well, I guess one of the deaths in there, it really happened, but it didn't happen like that. And same with slow burn. Death that happens in there doesn't happen, but it doesn't happen like that. And so these are just kind of like I've had a really interesting life, and I thought would be cool just for me, whether it be cathartic or whatever, is to just kind of like turn this into books, but make them an entertaining read, and not try to market them as some kind of autobio or anything like that, because that's not what they are. So instead of just, every book that a writer writes, they have some of, they use their own life experience, and maybe even full scenes of their life are in there. Where these two books, it was just like, without my life, the books wouldn't be able to exist, because there's so much of it in there. And I'm still working on the prequel to the prequel, and then that'll be probably all of it. It'll be a much longer book than the other two. But yeah, those are, I guess, attempts at kind of getting out of that thing. But then I guess it's too late, because every other review for Cannibal Creator is, this isn't as emotional as Lutzke usually writes, but I liked it. It's like,
Well, that's not what this book's supposed to be.
right.
Like I said, you can see maybe the after effects of, but like if anyone were to survive, I don't want to spoil anything, but let's
Yeah.
just say if anyone were to survive, you could definitely go there. But this is about. I like how you actually add those emotions while the story is going,
Yeah.
but they consciously think, okay, this is happening. I have to put this aside right now and focus on the survival. And not everyone, I don't think, can do that. But the main character in this was able to a certain extent, and I found that interesting, just the psychology of it. And so, in a sense, it's there. It's just it's got to be put on pause because there's something bigger going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. I couldn't help but put adding, I'm a, I see so many movies where in books where the reaction doesn't feel genuine to me. And it's very rare that I feel like I see a legitimate, genuine reaction. And so I try to convey that into, that's why there's so much like heartache and stuff in Cannibal Creator when stuff is going down. I just feel like this is how really people really react during these situations. Sometimes people would get real timid and afraid to open their eyes after the movie Hereditary probably displayed the most genuine reaction that I've ever seen in a film. When you've seen Hereditary, right?
Yeah.
Okay. When dude's driving home with his sister and something happens, his
Which he
reaction
did
is
not
to
see coming.
he can't even look in the back seat. He knows what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then he drives home and he just jumps in bed, and he's just, to me, that is, especially the part where he won't look. He just won't do it. That to me, any other movie or book, they would scream and look back and be like, oh my gosh, and I can really see somebody just being so shocked and so in denial that they just can't. And so I try to convey that kind of realism in.
Yeah.
So that's probably why a lot of my stuff feels so emotional, I guess.
Yeah. But I find it also that you're not just trying to change perhaps the perception of the way audiences react to your fiction, but that you're also kind of, like, especially with Cannibal Creator, this is where I noticed that that you're kind of tackling other areas that you just find fun.
Yeah.
And so I was wondering if there's any genres of horror that you still want to tackle.
Yeah, I want to do a haunted house book.
Oh,
But
that would be interesting.
But I would have to come up with something truly unique. I haven't read a lot of them. I've read like Amityville Horror, which I enjoyed. I haven't read it in a long time. I don't know if it holds up. I really liked House of Leaves. As pretentious as it was also genius.
Yeah.
But it would have to be something that's like truly unique. Tim Meyer wrote one that I thought was really unique, The Switch House. And so I would want to make sure that I came up with something that's more than just, we bought a new house, yay, and oh, I guess not. Let's get out of here. That's the setup is part that might be hard, to get through or whatever. But I would like to do that. I would like to do just kind of like a dumbed down slasher, where everything is absurd, where like people are having sex at the most ridiculous times, kind of thing, like they do anyway in movies, but like in the middle of running from someone, these people get horny and then just start making out and feeling each other up. It's just so ridiculous that it's, comical kind of thing.
Yeah.
and not to be taken seriously, but presented in a manner that when you're reading it, you know that I'm in on the joke. I'm
Yeah.
not an idiot.
That would be hard to write, I think, wouldn't it?
I think I could do it, man. Yeah,
I think you could do it too,
yeah.
but I know I couldn't. People would just think I'm an idiot.
I would never want to do sci-fi or fantasy because I'm not smart enough for any of that, and I don't read enough. Um, I don't want to try to memorize 40 names for fantasy.
Especially
You
names
know,
you can't pronounce.
yeah, and not to mention the fact that I would be crucified if I released a fantasy novella. Because that's not how they roll.
Now
You
that's
got
how
to
they
have at
you
least
know,
500-600 pages in there.
fantasy books in the 60s and 50s and 70s even. They were like novella
This is
size,
true. Yeah,
and they've
but
only ballooned out in the last 30 years or so,
yeah,
40 years.
but straightforward drama, I would even be down with writing a romance. I'm a big fan of romantic movies. Like The Notebook. Even I thought that was a great movie.
Hmm.
I haven't read too much of it, but I guess The Same Deep Water is kind of my my romance, even though it's not exactly happy.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that would be interesting seeing Chad Lutzke write a romance. I don't know if he'd be able. The one thing that romance readers I know uh, need in order to be happy with their romance is to have a happy ending.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
And
Yeah,
I'm
and you
not
had
talking about the nasty happy ending that guys like.
yeah.
Threw a curveball at you there.
Mm,
Sorry. Oh
that's it.
man. So we were just talking. Actually, before we get into that, there's a question here by
Okay.
JD I would like to get to. Would Chad like to write a horror screenplay, or do you just want to stick to prose?
Um, how much of this can I say? I did write a screenplay, and I'm only talking about it because Josh Malerman has brought it up twice, at least twice, and I guess that's all I can say. But I did write one,
Cool.
and it's been being shopped around for a while now, and a lot of work went into it. I didn't write it by myself because I didn't write the book by myself, and it's based on. But it was fun.
That's interesting. I don't need to go into any details of what it is, but
Mhm.
I am interested in the idea of being used to writing prose and then switching to
Yeah,
screenplay type format. Was that tough?
it was because we would do a revision, and I'd read some stuff on screenplays, and I'd like books and stuff, and I'd read some screenplays, but it is a learning curve in trying to, really. I mean, you're it's just so minimal, in everything that you put, and it can only be so many pages, um, unless you're like Ari Aster or Spielberg or something like that, and you hand in something that's 200 pages long, they're gonna read it, but you want to keep it under, I think it's like 112 pages or something, and those pages can go fast too, especially if you've got you know like cut scenes and dialogue and stuff like that in there. So, uh, because there's like double spacing involved, so every time you change something, um, it's like you're adding more to that page, but there's nothing there, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the more changes on the page, the little, the least it's done, or what I don't know how to explain it, but um, it was fun. I absolutely plan on doing more of it. I just haven't had the time with the plans that I've been, with the things I've been writing and stuff. But for sure, there's a lot of money involved in selling screenplays,
Certainly
and
is, yeah.
hopefully, the one that we worked so hard on um, will see the light of day.
Well, I'll keep my fingers crossed for you. That
Thanks.
would be awesome if you were able to land something big.
Yeah, it would be great. The experience in itself is just fun anyway. Just
Hmm.
working with other producers and a director and a team of people, um, who kind of would go through well, let's change this, and what do you think about if we, just having meetings and talking about this and arguing points, like, well, I think this really needs to stay here because of this reason. Yeah, you got a point. And Yeah, that kind of stuff is fun, working together like that, and
Yeah.
hoping that something comes out of it, but also knowing you might be wasting your time, but at least, because not all of this stuff, stuff sometimes just doesn't come to fruition. So from day one, when I found out that there was interest, when I was contacted, I was like, okay, that's exciting, but um, got to stay level headed because chances are this nothing will come of this.
Yeah. Or it'll be like 10 years from now.
Could be,
Yeah. Oh, going back to your writing, you did start a couple of series, and we've brushed upon them already. I was just wondering if, well, I know that the Neon Owl, the second part, you've been tinkering around with the cover. I've seen pictures of it either on your Patreon or on Twitter. I'm not sure, but are we gonna see that this year at all?
it was supposed to be out by now, but had to watch Lucio Fulci's Zombie, and then then my mind just started wandering, and I'm like, I got to make an island book,
Yeah.
and so that took up my time when I was writing. I mean, I think I was writing the second Neon Owl when I did that, and I was like, oh, gonna have to put it on the back burner. Um, it's not Neon Owl book two is not done yet, but I'm still trying to get it out before the middle of the year, hopefully.
Very cool. I really enjoyed the first book. It had me laughing out loud a few times. It's a
Thanks.
it's a funny book. Also, the Bloodletter series, the Hamato pages.
Hmm.
Um, are you going to continue that at all?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Uh, I honestly, I don't know. And that's kind of one of the reasons, too, why I don't really push it or anything, because I don't want to get people's hopes up. If there is a readership, and then I'm just like, I'm not interested in pursuing that. But with the Neon Owl, absolutely. I plan on, um, you know, doing as many as I can with those, because I think there's a lot of different stories that can be told there at the hotel, or the Malden apartment motel place. And I like those characters, and I like to, um, yeah, I just gotta come up with, I'm so impressed by TV writers, but it's like a table of writers, like when week to week they have to do these episodes. And
Yeah.
they're so TV is so creative anymore, and it's just amazing what a team of writers can accomplish. And when it's just me on my own and I've got all these other ideas I want to get out, it's kind of hard to um, come up with an idea that I think is worthy of writing about and putting into the Neon Owl series.
I imagine working with a team of writers for like a TV show, there's a lot of ideas being bounced around, and that's probably how they get the ball rolling so quickly.
Yeah, it's just back and forth. Just somebody lights a spark, and then everybody is just this piece of kindling in there, and things catch, and things are tossed, and then they're like, yeah, that's a great idea. And when you bounce, excuse me, when you bounce around ideas like that, um, that's why when you were like co-writing or something, it's good to just say everything, even if you think
Hmm.
it's stupid, because that stupid thing would just kind of like spark an idea that may not seem connected at all, and then next thing you know, you got these great ideas for this thing.
Yeah, for sure. Now, last night when I started advertising for this interview, I put up the thumbnail, and I was kind of poking fun with the thumbnail, with the thumbnail, me looking afraid with you kind of lurking behind me.
Yeah.
But there was a small point into that because when I started writing myself, it's like 20 years ago. The
Hmm.
friends I had at the time would relentlessly make fun of me for the dark stuff I put in my stories.
Uh-huh.
And I'm wondering if you get any of that, or do people think you're just a crazy person because you write dark stuff.
Not really. I think unless you count not reading my stuff because they have an impression that isn't real. Like if they see the word horror, I've had friends that are just like, yeah, but I don't really like horror, and I'm thinking, do you know how many people tell me my stuff isn't really horror? And it's like I I there have been people, friends or family where I was like, well, maybe, I don't know. It's like I try to, but I don't like really try to push my stuff on friends and family that haven't read it. But at some point it comes up in conversation, and I'm like, yeah, but I think they have this idea that they're going to open the book and it's just going to be this like Friday the 13th thing. And just people are just going to start dying and that doesn't appeal to them. And I'm like, no, that's not really, it's nothing like that. Well, unless you're talking about Cannibal Creator, but even then there's a story in there. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just a bunch of killing. So
True enough. Now, I want to move change topics here because you don't just write. You've been podcasting for some time now, but you recently started a new one that's more writer centric.
yeah.
It's the Bleeding Page podcast. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that? And it's brand new. Would you like to tell us a little bit about it and what your goal is
Yeah.
in doing this podcast?
I started that one because I had another one called Paleo Cheese, and we would discuss movies. And I wanted to start that one because um, I love movies, particularly indie films, and I wanted to discuss them with my good friend Jeremiah. But then when I found out that he had never seen films like Evil Dead, and that he could literally count how many horror movies he'd seen, I was like, dude, we've got to do this. Has got to be a horror movie thing, you know. And he's such a scaredy cat, so it turned into that. And one of the reasons why I love the appeal of that doing that is because I think I just got done promoting a book, and I got so at the time so burned out on talking about myself, which sounds horrible now that we're sitting here talking about myself. I do love hanging out with people. I love hanging out with you, Jason. But after a while, it does. This is my second one today, and I've done maybe 7 or 8 in the last couple of weeks, and it does feel strange to sometimes you end up saying the same things, and it feels uncomfortable to I don't know, like I don't know how to explain it. Like sometimes I get uncomfortable when someone wants to put me on some kind of pedestal or whatever,
Yeah.
because I'm not doing anything anybody else can't do, as long as
Mm-hmm.
if they try. So so yeah, it gets kind of tiresome more talking about books or the craft of writing. But after doing paleo, this is the long answer, by the way, so sorry about that.
No worries.
After doing Paleo Cheese, I started to kind of get not necessarily burned out on talking about movies, but I wanted to. All the podcasts I listen to are about writing, about the craft of writing, and about self-publishing. But I noticed that all of the self-publishing podcasts I listen to, everybody is writing romance, or they're writing urban fantasy, or they're writing fantasy or sci-fi or space
Yep.
opera. Nobody's writing horror because there's no money in it. And my goal has always been to write what I want to write, and not be, put into a box, and to be able to make money from doing that. I don't necessarily. I'm not a writer that wakes up in the morning. It's like, oh, I've got to write. I've got to get the words out. I've got to get the magic out. That's not me. I'm doing this. I'm doing it for art, but I'm also doing. That's why I don't do certain things that would probably sell me a lot more books, like some of the endings that I should throw in, or even covers that I should probably use instead. That's or spell things out more, or and so I want to keep that artistic integrity, but I also really want to get paid and make money doing this as a career, and have a comfortable. I don't want to be rich. I just want to be more comfortable than I am right now, and not have to struggle outside of writing. So I want writing to just be it, and this is my, this is what I do, and Lord willing that my wife wouldn't have to work either. So
Yeah.
that would be the ultimate goal, and so if I wanted to make a perfect example is my friend Dan Padavana was writing standalone horror novels and releasing them. and he was making, I think just under 3 figures a month, not very much money. And I think that's what he was making. And then he switched genres, and he learned all about marketing and through Facebook groups and things like that, and reading stuff. And now he just retired from being a meteorologist 5 years early. And he brought in, I think, and I know it's no less than this, but it may be more, like $238,000 last year from switching genres and writing in a series. And so he's written, he's writing like crazy. And he's putting these series out. And I knew that if you're going to make money in writing, that's how you do it. You write in a series and you write a genre that people are reading. So the whole reason why I wanted to do Bleeding Page is try to continue to hold on to the idea of writing horror and trying to make money. And maybe if you write a ton of books instead of a series, that maybe you can do that and live comfortably doing that. There's a million self-publishing podcasts out there, and it's really, really good ones. And a lot of them are way better than what we could ever do. But because this is strictly like dark fiction stuff, then I thought it would appeal to that audience. And there's a lot of, I noticed that there's a lot of people who settle, that are writing horror, that settle for, they don't even realize that, you can make money and all this stuff out there. So I asked Jason Brandt, who doesn't really hang around in our horror circles, but he's making more money than I am. And he's got 2 different series. One is like kind of like an action thriller series, and one is like a post-apocalyptic zombie series. And he makes a living doing it. And he's professional, and he's got his own podcast, Final Guys. So I asked him if he wanted to do this with me, and he's like, yeah. So we've recorded 4 episodes now, and they're bi-weekly. The first episode with Hunter Shea. We grabbed friends first, just to get our feet wet with it. Yeah. So we grabbed our friend Hunter, and we grabbed Armand Rosamilia, and then Dan Padavana, and my friend Sadie Hartman. And it brings a different perspective. She doesn't know much about, writing and self-publishing, but having kind of like a reader reviewer perspective on things. So, yeah, that's Bleeding Page podcast.
Awesome. I listened to the first episode actually just today, and sometimes first episodes are kind of clunky, but I found that this one was actually very well done. And that could be because you're all friends and you're all comfortable with each other.
Yeah.
And so there was definitely there was some banter and some fun things, but there was also some useful information that came out, a lot of useful information. So, and I kind of found it interesting that you're trying to learn. Chad, you're asking questions, and it's not just for the audience, you're asking for yourself. And
absolutely.
I kind of appreciate that, because that comes from a place of honesty. You're not just trying to figure out what your audience wants.
Dude, I got a lot to learn.
Yeah, in a sense, you are the audience, right? And that's why you're doing this, in order to learn.
I will never stop learning in all manner of life. Whether it be writing, being a better friend, whatever. I mean, every one of us we can always be learning.
For sure. I just want to say hello to Rob, my good friend. He says hello from the pit of doom here. And
hey, Rob.
Reggie Reeds, he's come in and said, I really like of Foster Homes and Flies. I ordered 3 more of your books, and I'm looking forward to reading them.
Thank you, Reggie. Appreciate that, man.
And I just have a couple more fun type questions here. Yeah. I saw on your Patreon recently that you wrote a song for Same Deep Water as you, and I listened to it. I was expecting this cheap sort of, somebody in a room with an acoustic guitar or something screaming at a mic, but this was like, it sounded very polished. I was like,
yeah, doesn't it? That's our technology for us these days, Yeah.
Just
my computer and my guitar and my son's bass and my crappy vocals.
You mentioned in the post that you're thinking of doing a soundtrack for Same Deep Water as you, even though The Cure, that album of theirs,
that's the real soundtrack.
Yeah, that's the real soundtrack. But you were thinking of writing more songs for it, I guess you could say, to add on to that.
Yeah, that go more along the story in of the same deep waters you as the novella, and that's just because I'm sitting here, I'm like, I got okay, let's see if I can come up with a vocal melody, and I'm like, I just grab a book and I open the first chapter of Same Deep Water, and I just wrote the lyrics out, and then came up with the melody like that and laid the vocals. I went back and polished the vocals more and re-recorded them, but the early demo I had, and I was like, well, what if I just there's a lot of different things in there, and I'm a big fan of, I'm very diverse when it comes to the music that I listen to. I like very hardcore punk rock stuff, but then I'm a huge huge Sade fan. I love slow jazz. I love Madonna's first couple albums. I love Slayer.
Hmm.
Black Flag, Minor Threat. So, um, I in the same deep water as you kind of has all of those in it. The guys go to punk shows. But then there's all this love story stuff in there, and there's drugs and alcohol, and so it's very angsty, but there's a lot of heart and emotion in it. So I thought maybe this would be the perfect one to write a soundtrack that was diverse like that. And so the first, because a lot of soundtracks, if you think about it, they're not just like one genre of music. A lot of them,
Yeah.
and they're very moody and all over the place. So yeah, the first song is like a kind of like, I guess, a power pop, like 90s kind of like if the Cars were a little bit heavier
Do
or something.
you think that this will be anything that you ever release on like Bandcamp or anything like that?
Yeah, I do. I'm
Because you could
working.
totally do it. Like,
Well,
I
what
was
gave me
taken
the
aback by how like the polished feel of it.
Oh, thanks, man. I really appreciate that. Because I hadn't written a song. I've written a ton of music, lyrics and music, but I haven't been in a band in a long time, and I hadn't written a song. Don't pick up my guitar much, and I hadn't written a song in maybe 15 years. And so it all came together really fast. And what gave me the idea and got excited about it was because I don't know if you know who Jason Cavallero is. Um, he's on Twitter. He is Pinhead something. He's a reviewer, and he writes for, I think, Horror Drive-In. And
Okay.
I think he's also one of the judges for the Splatterpunk Awards, and he goes to conventions sometimes. He's in a couple metal bands. He's a fantastic drummer, and he's got music videos for his bands and stuff on YouTube. And we were talking one day, and he's like, "Hey man, if you ever got any riffs lying around and you want me to lay some drums over them or something, get a hold of me." And I was like, and um, I've always wanted to record remotely with someone. I thought that would be so cool to hang out with friends that you have made online, and musician friends, and you record remotely, and they have the ability to do so, and you have the ability to do so. And I've never done that before, and I guess ever since I was doing an interview with this is like almost 25 years ago. I was doing an interview with Kurt Breck, the singer for DRI, and he had just got done doing the Probot project, which he laid vocals down for, which is a Dave Grohl bunch of songs that Dave Grohl put together and played the instruments on, and then he got different singers, everyone from like Lemmy's on one, Jack Black, and then he got Kurt Breck, and Kurt was telling me about the process and how they never even met. It's just basically through email.
Yeah.
Dave asked him if he would do it because Dave's a punk rocker at heart. Those were his roots are, and he grew up listening to DRI, and so he just asked him, and Kurt was like, "Yeah," and Kurt wrote the lyrics, and Dave sent him the music and said, "Do your thing, whatever." Didn't say do this melody or whatever. So Kurt did his thing, and I was like, "That is so freaking cool, man." So didn't even meet. And that I was like, ever since I heard that, I was like, I want to do that. And so when Jason brought that up, I was like, you know what, I might do that. So initially, I was just going to write a riff or a handful of riffs and then send them to him. And then I started messing around with GarageBand because I hadn't played with it much before at all.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, how easy is this? And how easy? So I play everything except for the drums on there, and those are still like GarageBand drums. But I think Jason's gonna help me with the rest of the stuff. So he's already sent me some stuff back, but yeah, it'd be cool, and I would
That's
love
very cool.
to. I would love to even have an accompanying like CD. You know, it's not very expensive to produce CDs,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, you should do vinyl.
dude, I would love to do that.
Yeah. The
So
Chad Lutzke.
limited vinyl. Yeah, I mean, it would have to be good. I'm proud of the first song. I do really like that song.
Hmm.
Um, I had no idea. I didn't sit down and be like, oh, that's going to be this genre. I just started playing, and then next thing I know, I'm like, okay, this is not as heavy as I maybe thought it was going to be, but I'm digging it. It's catchy, so yeah, I liked it, and I've only shared it with my patrons and a couple family members and a couple friends.
Yeah, I suggest anyone who wants to hear it, because it is a. I keep saying it's polished, but like I said, man, I've heard demos
Mm-hmm.
like this. That song sounds better in a lot of demos, and I'm not just trying to be nice. You know what I mean? It's very polished. It
Thanks.
sounds very good.
I
But
call it a demo, but to be honest, I don't know how much more polished the final thing would be.
yeah,
And I'm okay with that because I mean it's just DIY. I'm not, I'm not gonna pay like some kind of producer.
yeah.
You know, I'm
I
more.
would suggest that you just keep doing the way you're doing, honestly,
Yeah,
because
I'll
it
probably
sounds
just do
fine.
that.
Like it's not like I said, like a guy with a guitar screaming at their mic. You know, like it.
I've got that too, man.
Yeah.
I've got some of that too. A lot of that.
But yeah, so I'm pretty much done. I want to thank you for coming on the show. It's
Thank
always a
you.
pleasure talking to you. I think this is the third time I've talked to you now.
I
It's
think so. I think that
it,
we hung out with was it Nikki?
yeah, Nikki from Dark
Yeah.
Between Pages. She invited me along to come and talk with you, which I really appreciate.
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun. And man,
And then
yeah,
I
thank
talked
you.
to you. I talked to you first though on this channel
Yep.
here, and that was a lot of fun too.
Yep.
Before we go, do you have any book releases that you can talk about that are coming out soon, or even
Um,
short stories and anthologies or whatnot?
I don't know that I can announce any of the short story stuff. Um, but I do have a book that I'm self-publishing that I hope to have out by spring. It's not even written, but I mean, sometimes this stuff happens fast, like with Cannibal Creator. But I do have the cover, and but I do have a book coming out. I did one of those splatter westerns for Death Set Press, and that will be out. I'm told June, I think.
I'm looking forward to that because seeing what you do in the splatter western type of
Mm-hmm.
field will be very, very interesting.
I like it. I will tell you this: it's my wife's favorite book I've written, and it's John Bowden's second favorite, next to Skullface Boy.
Very, very cool.
So I like it. I enjoy it. It might be. I haven't read any of those splatter westerns, so it might be tamer than those. I really don't know. I just try to write a really good book, and it gets messy, for sure.
Well, the fact that they took it and are going to publish it, I'm sure means that it fits in with their line. They might
Mm-hmm.
have said no otherwise, right?
Yeah,
They have a pretty strong list of authors who have contributed to that.
yeah, yeah. I cannot wait until people can read it. And then I've got a short story collection coming out later in the year. I have no idea when. It could be December. Or it could be May. I really don't know. That's through Silver Shamrock, and then Crystal Lake Publishing asked me if I wanted to do a 3 novella thing where I pick 2 other authors to write novellas in, and they can interlink if you want, and which we do that. So it's like kind of like a collaborative effort, and we all have our own novellas. So I chose Robert Ford and John Bowden, and our book will be out. I think in late summer or early fall,
I'm looking forward to that too.
and I think that's called. It's a series. There are other authors who are doing it as well, but ours is called, and I think they're all called like mystery and something, and Ours, of course, is called Mystery and Melancholy. So
There's that again, right?
yeah, here I am trying to run from it, and I slap it right on the title.
All right. Well, I want to thank everyone who came and
Yes,
asked
thank you.
questions. It was a great. I think I had a great time. Did you have a great
Yeah,
time?
absolutely, man.
All right.
And I did.
So,
I was representing Canada today with my Rush
oh,
shirt.
Rush, yeah.
Yeah.
Once I saw the owl eyes there, I was like, oh, okay, Rush, yeah.
Yeah. Fly by night.
Awesome. Rush. All right. All right. So thanks everyone for coming. And Chad, you're welcome anytime. I'll probably ask you to come on again at some point.
Great.
And I'm looking forward to that. So thanks everyone.
See ya.